Some killers act in fits of rage, some strike on impulse. But then, there was Israel Keyes, a man who planned murders years in advance, who buried kill kits across the United States, waiting for the right victim to come along. He had no type, no preference, no pattern that could be traced. His crimes left investigators baffled, terrified, and certain that many of his victims remain undiscovered to this day. This is the story of Israel Keyes, one of the most meticulous and chilling serial killers America has ever known. Israel Keyes was born on January 7, 1978, in Cove, Utah, to a large Mormon family. He was the second of 10 children, raised in a home defined by strict religious control and isolation from the outside world. His parents, John and Heidi, lived a life guided by fundamentalist beliefs, rejecting modern conveniences and cutting their children off from society. The Keyes family moved frequently, seeking increasingly remote areas to live. By the early 1980s, they had settled in Stevens County, Washington, where the children grew up in a small one-room cabin with no running water and no electricity. Friends, television, the outside world, those things barely existed for Israel. Instead, he spent his days in the wilderness, learning to hunt, track animals, and survive in harsh conditions. These skills, which seemed harmless for a boy raised in the woods, would one day become the tools of his murders. By his teenage years, Keyes was already different. He admitted later that he had no empathy, no sense of guilt. As a boy, he would sneak into neighbors' homes, steal their guns, and set fires in the woods. He began to experiment with cruelty to animals. Cats, in particular, became his victims. It was clear early on, Israel Keyes was not like other children. When his family eventually left the Mormon Church and became involved in a Christian identity movement, a far-right extremist ideology, Israel only grew more isolated. He rarely spoke, rarely laughed, and instead quietly nurtured violent fantasies. In 1998, at the age of 20, Israel Keyes enlisted in the United States Army. He served at Fort Lewis in Washington, Fort Hood in Texas, and later at a base in Egypt. Those who served with him recalled him as a decent soldier. Disciplined, competent, and unremarkable, he kept to himself, drank heavily, and listened to heavy metal music. But beneath the surface, Keyes was sharpening his ability to blend in. He was learning structure, control, and most importantly, patience. During his military service, Keyes began to develop a chilling philosophy. He wanted to kill, but he wanted to do it smart. Unlike impulsive killers who were eventually caught, he decided that his crimes would follow no pattern. He would kill anyone, anywhere, at any time. He believed that this would make him impossible to track, and for more than a decade, he was right. When Israel Keyes was finally arrested in 2012, he admitted that his first murder took place in 1998 or 1999, shortly after he left the Army. The victim, he claimed, was a woman somewhere on the East Coast. To this day, that victim has never been identified. Investigators believe there are many more, but the case that truly revealed Keyes' methods would not come until years later. Unlike other serial killers, Keyes prepared for his murders like military operations. He created murder kits, containers filled with duct tape, rope, cash, guns, ammunition, and even bottles of Drano to help dissolve remains. He buried these kits in random locations across the United States, in parks, under rocks, or deep in the ground. He might not return to them for years, but when he did, everything he needed for a perfect crime was waiting. This made him extraordinarily dangerous. He could fly into a city, rent a car, dig up a kit, and kill someone at random. Then just as quickly, he would disappear, leaving investigators with no leads, no motive, and no connection to the victim. The FBI later discovered at least 2 confirmed kill kits, one in Vermont, another in New York. How many more remain buried across the country is still unknown. By the early 2000s, Israel Keyes was in full control of his double life. To the outside world, he was a construction worker, a business owner, even a father. But behind the mask, he was hunting. The first victims investigators could connect him to were Bill and Lorraine Currier, a middle-aged couple from Vermont. In June 2011, they vanished from their home without a trace. Their car was found abandoned. Their house showed signs of a struggle, but there were no fingerprints, no DNA, no leads. The case went cold. It was only after Keyes' arrest that the truth came out. He had flown to Chicago, rented a car, and driven over 1,000 miles to Vermont. He dug up a kill kit he had buried years earlier, then randomly chose the Currier's home. He broke in, subdued them, and took them to an abandoned farmhouse. There, he murdered them both. Their bodies were never recovered. To the FBI, this case revealed the true scale of Keyes' terror. He could move across the country, strike at random, and vanish again. His victims could be anyone, anywhere, at any time, and the Curriers were just the beginning. Every serial killer makes a mistake eventually. For Israel Keyes, it happened in 2012, in Anchorage, Alaska. It was there that his carefully constructed mask of control finally slipped. And it all began with an 18-year-old barista named Samantha Koenig. February 1st, 2012, Anchorage, Alaska. It was a freezing Thursday night, and Samantha Koenig, an 18-year-old barista, was working the late shift at the Common Grounds coffee kiosk. Friends described Samantha as bright, funny, and independent. She had plans for her future, and this was just a part-time job to help pay the bills. Around 8 p.m., Samantha sent her boyfriend a text. Then, just minutes before closing, a man in a ski mask walked up to the drive-through window. At first, she thought it was a robbery. She handed him the money from the till. But then, the man, Israel Keyes, pulled out a gun and ordered her to turn off the lights. Keyes forced Samantha out of the stand, across the snow and into his truck. In less than 90 seconds, she was gone. The kiosk stood silent, empty, with the cash drawer open. By the time her boyfriend arrived to pick her up, Samantha had vanished. Keyes took Samantha back to his home. His girlfriend and young daughter were inside, asleep. He tied Samantha up in his shed, just feet away from where his family slept. All night, Samantha begged for her life. Keyes later admitted that he had no intention of letting her go. The next morning, he strangled her. But what happened next made this case infamous. Israel Keyes knew that Samantha's disappearance would be noticed quickly. He wanted time. He wanted money. So in a chilling act of deception, he staged a kidnapping. He left her body in his shed, froze it to preserve it, and went on vacation with his family to New Orleans, then on a cruise to the Gulf of Mexico. For 2 weeks, Samantha's body lay in the cold Alaskan winter, while Keyes acted as if nothing had happened. When he returned, he used makeup and stitching to make Samantha appear alive. He posed her body, snapped a photo, and used it in a ransom note demanding $30,000. Her family believed she might still be alive. In reality, she was already dead. The Anchorage Police Department and the FBI launched a massive investigation. For weeks, they tracked the ATM card Keyes had stolen from Samantha. Each withdrawal was made in a different city, Anchorage, then Arizona, then New Mexico, then Texas. Keyes was on the move, but he had made a critical error. He was sloppy. Surveillance cameras caught his rental car. Bank cameras caught glimpses of his face, and at every stop, investigators were one step closer. March 13, 2012, Texas. A state trooper pulled over a white Ford Focus for speeding. Behind the wheel was Israel Keyes. Inside the car, police found Samantha Koenig's ATM card, her cell phone, and a disguise kit, a mask, a gun, and thousands of dollars in cash. Keyes was arrested on the spot. For weeks, the FBI interrogated him. At first, he denied everything, but soon the pressure cracked him. What Keyes revealed would shock investigators. He admitted to killing Samantha. He admitted to killing Bill and Lorraine Currier. And then, he admitted there were many more. He described murders all over the country. Kill kits buried in random locations. Victims abducted at random. Their bodies never found. "You've barely scratched the surface," he told the FBI. Keyes eventually led investigators to the location of Samantha's body. He had dismembered her, cut a hole in the ice on Matanuska Lake, and sunk her remains beneath the frozen surface. On April 2, 2012, divers recovered her body. Her family's worst fears were confirmed. The truth was devastating. Samantha Koenig had become one of Israel Keyes' many nameless, faceless victims. But unlike the others, her case would finally expose him for what he truly was: a predator who had spent over a decade hunting across the United States. And yet, even in custody, Keyes remained one step ahead. The truth was devastating. Samantha Koenig had become one of Israel Keyes' many nameless, faceless victims. But unlike the others, her case would finally expose him for what he truly was: a predator who had spent over a decade hunting across the United States. And yet, even in custody, Keyes remained one step ahead. By the spring of 2012, Israel Keyes sat in FBI custody. The man who seemed so calm, so ordinary, had finally revealed the truth. He was a hunter of human beings. But for investigators, the real nightmare was only beginning. From the moment he was arrested in Texas, Keyes maintained an eerie composure. He didn't rant, he didn't cry, he didn't even try to deny his crimes for long. Instead, he treated the FBI interviews like a chess game. He laid out the rules. He would confess, but only on his terms. He didn't want his name in the news. He didn't want his daughter to grow up knowing the details of what he had done. "I don't want media. I don't want publicity," he said. "My kid, she doesn't deserve to have to deal with this." But in return, he wanted something chilling: a quick execution, no trial, no endless court proceedings. He wanted control, even in the end. Over weeks of questioning, Keyes began to talk. Piece by piece, he revealed a dark puzzle. He admitted to the kidnapping and murder of Samantha Koenig. He confessed to killing Bill and Lorraine Currier in Vermont. But then he spoke of more. Many more. "You're going to think I'm lying," he told investigators, "but I'm not." He described traveling across the country, burying kill kits filled with guns, duct tape, cash, and shovels. He admitted that he would fly into a random city, rent a car, and drive hundreds of miles just to hunt for a victim. There was no pattern, no connection between him and the people he killed. That was his design. Randomness. The FBI believed he killed at least 11 people, but the true number may be far higher. Investigators begged him for names, for locations, for closure. But Keyes played with them like a cat with a mouse. "I don't remember names," he shrugged. "I didn't know them." That was his greatest cruelty. His victims were chosen at random, their lives extinguished without reason, and their identities buried in silence. One case he did describe in detail was the murder of Bill and Lorraine Currier in Vermont. In June 2011, Keyes flew to Chicago, rented a car, and drove 1,000 miles to Vermont. He broke into the Currier's home, bound them with duct tape, and drove them to an abandoned farmhouse. There he separated them. Lorraine screamed as she realized what was happening. Keyes strangled Bill in the basement. Lorraine fought desperately, but he raped her before killing her as well. Then he left their bodies in the basement and returned to Alaska. The farmhouse was demolished in 2012. Their remains were never found. This was the methodical nature of Israel Keyes: long planning, random choice, total control, and absolute erasure. Serial killers are often defined by patterns, a type of victim, a method, a signature. Israel Keyes had none. He killed men. He killed women. He killed young. He killed old. His methods varied: strangulation, stabbing, shooting. To investigators, this was a nightmare. Without a pattern, there was no way to connect his crimes. For years, he had been the perfect predator, invisible. The FBI knew that the number of victims he hinted at could stretch into dozens. But without bodies, without names, there would never be justice. December 2nd, 2012, Anchorage Correctional Complex. Israel Keyes was found dead in his cell. He had slit his wrists and strangled himself with a bed sheet. Next to his body was a chilling note, a murder poem. It was not a confession. It gave no names, no locations, no closure. Instead, it was a rambling ode to murder, to death, to his twisted fascination with killing. He wrote, "You may have been free, you loved, you were loved, but I never once let you go." The note ended as it began, with taunts, with darkness, with no answers. Israel Keyes was dead, but the damage he left behind remains. To this day, the FBI continues to investigate his movements, his bank records, and his travel history. They believe he killed in Washington, Oregon, New York, Vermont, Texas, and possibly Mexico. But most of his victims may never be identified. Their families may never know what happened. Keyes once told investigators, "I left no witnesses. I left no DNA." He wasn't wrong. Israel Keyes was unlike any killer the FBI had ever seen. He was a ghost, a predator who killed for pleasure, not for recognition. His crimes stretch across America like shadows, and many of his victims remain lost to time. He wanted to be forgotten, but in remembering his story, we give a voice to those who never had the chance to speak. If you found this video chilling, subscribe to the channel for more true crime documentaries. Every week we dive into the darkest cases in history, from notorious serial killers to forgotten tragedies. Don't miss the next story.